Well, I'm going to start up. We are leaving a little early today, so if you do, you don't have to do this, but just so you know, the documentation for Mongoose is out at mongoosejs.com, okay? And they've got a lot of things, including a quick start guide that's pretty good, all right? And unlike a lot of the other stuff that I've been reading online, it's written by the company, so it's not real self-serving. Like a lot of times you read something from a company that's underneath this or whatever, and it's just a big ad, and this isn't. So, plus they've got, again, in the getting started, they've got a bunch of examples on how you do things. So if some of the stuff that we're doing doesn't make sense, you might want to go out to mongoosejs.com and take a look. Okay. All right. Well, we mentioned before that this does not look right, and it doesn't. So we're going to fix it right now. So in order to fix that, what we want to do is this. First, we want to go in, we'll just start at the top. So let's go into header.js. All right. And when you come in here, anything that we have that's a partial address, the one that doesn't start with HTTPS, so like this one right here that says assets, etc., put a / before that. And the one down here on line 14, put a / before that. So in line 7, on this link line, I put a /, and right here I put a /. I want to quickly check to see if there's anything else. I don't think there is. Again, I can hit enter here and check that way.
On line 8 is a type, where it says type, and then /x icon.
Right there?
You put a / behind that?
No, that won't matter. That's not a location, for lack of better words. The other things are locations. All right, and these are absolute addresses, so we wouldn't put a / before those. All right, so we just changed those 2 lines. I think that's going to be it, but we'll find out. And we'll do a file save on that. And then we can close this one. So we can close the header.ejs. And let's bring up navbar.ejs and see if we've got anything in there that needs to change. Well, you can already tell when you look here, these are already starting with a // so that's good. And I don't think there's anything else in here that's being referenced. So that one should be okay. So let's go and look at footer.ejs. And just taking a quick look, I didn't see anything in there either. All right. But I do know that scripts.ejs, the last one, that one will have to change here. This will have to be /js, like that. All right, so I'm going to do a file save. I'm going to close that. I'm going to come back to where I just was, which is here, that looked funky, and I'm going to refresh. And it looks okay. All right, so now I've got to create new post. Notice there's no image there, because we didn't ask for there to be an image there. All right, so home, about, sample, contact, and new post. Now, a couple things. First of all, want to get in touch, you probably don't really need this. Would you agree? This is stuff for a contact. So we can get rid of that. Second, as I mentioned, what we're going to do in just a moment is we're going to change the name of name to title. We're going to change the message in here. We won't even put in, and we can put body in there, and we'll get rid of these 2. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, so let's go in and start doing that. So we want to go into our create.ejs. And I got a lot of stuff open that I probably don't need open, so I'm going to close it for a while at least. And I'm going to come back into here. All right, so taking it from the top, get rid of that there. So I don't need the email, so I'm going to get rid of this whole thing in here for the email. All right, and it looks like it goes, I've got email and phone number right there. See that? So if your numbering is the same as mine, it's lines 42 through 52. So I'm going to get rid of those. All right. All right, next, I'm going to come in here, and where it says name, I'm going to change that to title. All right. And in here, where it says a name is required, I'm going to change it to a title is required. All right. Plus, in here, and this is an important one, we want to change the ID to title, but for the first time maybe, or one of the first times, we want to put in name equals title. Remember, that's how we're going to reference it with server-side code. So let's go back and quickly double-check everything we just changed in here. All right? So ID equal title, name equal title. We added the name equal title. We're here where it says enter your name. We'll change that to enter your title. All right? You know, there's a lot of built-in stuff in here that you can see that we didn't put this stuff in. All right? And maybe we need it, maybe we don't. I'm just going to leave it in there. Now, notice in here it says name required. All right? I'm not sure with that one if that should be name or title, to be honest with you, but I think it's actually, well, I can tell you how we can go find out. I can go back and bring up the other one that we took this from, which was contact. Yep, it's so that should be title required. All right, so right there on line 40 where it says name required, that should be title required. All right, so did everybody see everything that was changed? All right, then we're going to go down and do the other one. And this one's a text area, and I kept that one because that's more symbolic of what you'd probably write in a post, you know, separate multi-line type of thing. So when we come down here, the ID now, I don't want it to be message, I want it to be body, because remember there's a title and there's a body. All right. And we can put anything we want here. We don't even really need a placeholder, but if you want, we could say enter your post here. All right. Or you can leave it blank, whatever you think. And remember, since we said ID equal body, we also want to say name equal body. All right. So what have we changed so far? We came into this one. ID equal body, name equal body, and the placeholder was changed as well. All right? So what else? Well, label for equal, well, again, I'm going to just call this what it is, body. Okay? Now, if you don't like the word body, then put description or put something else in there. That's not going to matter. This is just the text for the label. So if you would rather put description in there, I'm going to leave it as body. But if you'd rather put description in there, then do that. All right, and I'm going to say here, again, since it's not message, it's going to be body, and I'll say a body is required. Questions on anything we just did? Everything makes sense? All right, so I'm going to come back here again, and I'm going to refresh, and now notice what I've got in here. I've got the title and the body. See that? Also, like I said, I don't think we really need this, so I'm going to get rid of this too. You want to keep that, or you want to write your own stuff in there, that's totally fine. Again, I mentioned this to you the other day. I'm expecting when we get done with this, which will be early next week, that you're going to make this yours. You don't like these colors? Change them. I'm expecting you're going to use, go out to Google Fonts and find nice fonts that go together. I'm expecting you're going to have your own images in there, etc. All right, so I want to get in touch. I don't want that anymore, so I'm going to find that and get rid of that paragraph. There it is. So that's what it looks like now. And it's not perfect. Again, where it says create new post, if that's too big or you don't like those verbiage, you don't have questions, I have answers, you don't want that, you can change anything you want to change in there. Since we're doing a lot of this as a class, the stuff that I put down when I give you the requirements, that's what I'm grading you on. So if you got a little miffed last time because I took off 5 points because you didn't format the percentage, that's why I did it. Because I've told you exactly the stuff that's in there. All right, and I'm showing you exactly how I'm grading stuff. All right, so let's see. We've done that. We've done all that. All right. There's one other thing that we want to do, and that is right now, when you look at this, I'm going to go back. right there. All right. So where's our form start? Right here. Well, first of all, it isn't called contact form, right? All right. And second, this API token and all this stuff that's in there, I don't think we need any of that. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to change this. All right, so I'm going to say form, and I can give it an ID just in case we have to do something with it. So I'll say ID equal, call it whatever you want. I'll call it new post form. If you want, you can give it a name too. Again, you should probably give it the same thing, post form. But the big thing is, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want it when somebody enters a post, we're going to want to store it into the database. Does that make sense? All right. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to give it an action. I'll just put this on a new line. You don't have to, but you can. So I'm going to say action equal, and we haven't written this yet, but we will. All right. So we're going to say slash posts slash store, because we're going to store them into the database. And method equal post. Now, since you can see right there, we've got this. We're going to need a route eventually for that. All right, and that route that we're going to put in there will be an app.post. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, now, I have mentioned this to you before. We haven't looked at it in much depth or breadth of coverage, so you don't have to go out here, but what I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to go out to npmjs.com, the Node Package Manager, and I'm going to put in Body Parser. Because now, hopefully, you can really see what Body Parser is. Because we only have 2 fields. But when you send it over and you do a request.body, it's basically concatenating everything together. We don't want that. We want the ability to be able to break it up into pieces. So we're going to need to add Body Parser in. We're going to need to install that, and then we're going to need to add that, and we'll do that in just a second. All right? But, again, body parsing middleware. I'm not going to read it to you. You can all read yourselves. But the way that I look at it is typically if you're going to be using forms and you want to be able to access individual form fields, you're going to use Body Parser. All right? So with that said, then, I'm going to come back to here, and I can stop the app from running. And I'm going to do an npm I of Body Parser. All right? So go ahead and install that. And to use this, there's 3 lines that we're going to have to put into our server.js file in just a second. So let me clear this, and I'm going to start my project back up again with an npm run dev, make sure nothing's broken. Good, nothing's broken. All right. Then I'm going to jump back into the server.js file, and one of these lines for sure you already know. All right, and that's up here, right? We have to come in here and say const body parser equal require body hyphen parser. All right, so add this line 5 that I've got in there that's now in blue on your screen. I don't know, you said you don't see colors well. Does that look blue to you, Christopher? Up on the screen there?
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay. All right. And remember, we've talked about this a year ago. And that is that in JavaScript, the only legal characters for identifiers are letters, numbers, $signs, and underscores. You can't use the minus sign. That's why you can't call this field, we can't call it body-parser, because actually JavaScript thinks we're attempting to do a mathematical operation of subtracting parser from body, which doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So we do it like this. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Then we also want to come in and where we've got our app.use here. All right, we're adding our middleware. We're going to add some more middleware. So we're going to add 2 lines. App.use, and we say express.json, because basically we are going to have everything being returned as JSON. So the line 12 is new, and then app.use body parser .url encoded, and we've got that extended false. Again, I've given you a URL as far as what that means, all right? And no one has said anything about this, but I could see anyone complaining or saying, how come you keep using body parser when it's deprecated? Because it's still used all over the place, all right? So we added line 5, const body parser equal require body parser. We added line 12, app.use express.json, and we added line 13. App.use body parser.url encoded with extended false. Questions on any of that? All right, good time to save. In fact, I'll do a save all there. There we go. All right. So the next thing that we can do here then is we can come in and we can add that route. Now, what did we call that route just a minute ago? Someplace in here, not in here. Where are we? Was it in here? There we go.
Where's that road at?
Yeah, it's right here.
Store.
This post store. All right, so we're accounting for this, but we don't have any route for that. Does that make sense to everybody? We don't have that yet. And notice again, it's a post. So this is going to be an app.post that we're going to have to go in and add. We're going to have to go in and we're going to have to add this. All right. Now, tomorrow when we come in here, when we're going through this stuff, we're going to start talking about, because our server.js is getting clunky. It's getting filled with these app.this, app.that. And so we're going to clean that up a little bit. I'm going to show you, I'm going to get you started on cleaning it up, and then I'm going to let you finish cleaning it up. All right? Okay, so it's /post/store. So now I'm going to come back into server, and I want to put in that route. Now, we're going to comment out line 46 that we're putting in just a minute. Did you hear me? We're going to comment that out in just a minute. I put that in here so we can run it and double check that it's working. That's all. All right? So what is this doing? Well, first of all, if I didn't mention this before, then shame on me. As far as the order in which you put these routes, does everybody understand back in the day? I'm just going to show you this real quick. I'll come right back to where we are, okay? I promise. I'll come right back. But remember when we did something like this, and we did like a switch on X, all right? And then we did something like this, and we said case 1, and you did some stuff, and then you did a break. You know what I'm talking about? Then you had case 2, case 3. It keeps going until it finds a match, just like with an if statement. The reason that I'm telling you that, the reason that that is actually important is when you are going through this, it works the same way. As soon as it finds a match, something that it thinks matches, it stops. That's why at the end, if you remember, one of the things that we put in a long time ago, and one of the first ones we did was we put that asterisk in there, and I said it had to go at the bottom, and it was our catch-all type of thing. We're not going to do that here. We're going to build our own 404 page. So if we put in something bad, we'll just push them off to a 404 page. It'll be very generic because I want you to make it yours. All right? But let's take a look. So I'm going to save this. All right? In fact, no, just do a save. All right? And good, I didn't break anything, so that's still running. All right. So I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to refresh, and I'm going to go and I'm going to put a title in here, a blog post title. And then for the body, a blog post body. There is nothing significant about either one of these. I think you all understand that. All right, so title and a body, click send. Well, right now nothing happened. All right, and it didn't come over there. Well, that ain't good, but we'll just keep working on it, okay? All right, so what we want to do, though, is we want to throw this into our database. Does that make sense? All right, and guess what? You now know how to do that because that's one of the things that we looked at earlier today. What do I mean? Well, we're going to come in here and we're going to say blog post dot create, and we want to put everything in there. So it's going to be req dot body error blog post put it semicolon. All right. And if it works, if everything happened the way we wanted it to happen, all right, then we just want to do a res.redirect, and we're going to send them back to the home page. Well, they just put in a blog. We attempted to store it, and if we're redirecting to the home page, ideally, now their blog will be there, or their blog post will be there. Does that make sense? All right. All right. Now, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think the reason that that might not have worked, if you remember the test program that we did, you don't have to go back to it, but we put in this line right here. I don't know if we've got this line in our server.js, so I'm going to check and see if we do. Oh, we do have it. Okay. Oh, that's a good thing. All right, so we want the blog post, models blog post, good. All right, we do. All right. Now, one of the things when you start working on this stuff, and you start, how many blog posts could we have? Would you agree? Possibly thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, whatever. All right. I mean, I watched a little bit of Saturday Night Live last week, and Kim Kardashian was the host, and I heard she's got I don't know how many million followers on Twitter and whatever. I watched it partially because I'm trying to figure out why that's the case, all right? And I still don't know why. All right, but the point is, it's possible you could have millions of posts out there if indeed that's what you wanted to do. All right, so what we're going to do is in this post store, we don't know how long this is going to take until we get this stuff. All right, in other words, this could take like that, or this could take seconds, or this, etc. So we're going to start to implement that async await type of thing that we've talked about before. All right, because what's going to happen is we don't want this to happen until that gets done. Would you agree with that? Now, it may or may not work the way we want it to, but we're going to make it work that way because right here, we're going to put in the word async. And then right here, where we actually want to do the await, we're going to put in await. Remember, if you use an await, you need an async. You shouldn't put the await until, something you want to wait. All right? Did that. Still trying to figure out why that wasn't showing. App.post, post.store. Because that really should have been showing our new post. in the console, it was not. So I have to take a look at that, but I'm going to try one more time. I think it's the button, because the button is not reacting at all to this. So we'll have to go back and check that. All right? All right. Now, the other thing, I mentioned that we don't know how long it's going to take to put that post in, but if you remember, one of the things I just mentioned to you is, can somebody tell me ideally when we get done? When that gets called, what's going to happen? It's not a trick. When that gets called, I know it's going to show the home page, but what's it going to show?
Special index.
Yes, what I'm saying is what's in the index? What do we want there to be in the index? All the posts. We don't know how long that's going to take. So again, we're going to come in here and we're going to add our async and our await. Just like that. All right. All right. Now, right now, ideally, it's going to show the index, but the index that it's going to show is not everything we put in. It's that pre-programmed stuff that was in there before. All right? We're going to have to go in and start putting in some of our own stuff. And if you go, I don't know what you mean, you're going to in just a minute. All right? In fact, this res.render, I'm going to take the await off of there because we're going to put some other code in here first. All right? So we're going to say here const blog posts, plural, equal, here's going to be our await. All right? Blog post dot find. Now, I'm asking you this question. Does everybody now understand what that means? Not the await, but you understand what the blog post dot find with nothing in there means? That means show us everything. We're not putting in any criteria. All right? If we wanted to, we're not going to get in that granular in what we're doing, but if we wanted to, we could come in and, for example, we could allow you to go in and check for posts by a certain person. Do you understand what I'm saying? That probably involve a lot more code. All right? But this, what we're saying here is we want you to find every blog post. And we want you to show them to us, all right? And that's fine. And then it's going to render this page, all right? But we want to add some stuff into this, all right? If you say what, I'm going to show you it right now, all right? Now, don't type this because I'm going to change it, and it gives me a chance to show you something that exists in this language. We want to show all the blog posts, all right? So don't, like I said, don't type this in. And let's just say we want to call it blog posts. Wouldn't that make sense? You know, they are type blog posts, and can we call them the same thing? Yes, we can. It's totally legit to do that. But there's something that they put into a recent version of JavaScript that's called destructuring. And it says if your key is the same name as your value, if they're the same, you don't even need that one. You can just put in that. Now, you can still put in blog posts, blog posts, but this is considered a much cleaner way of doing it. All right? And I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I'm going to try this anyway. And that is, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put in a console.log in here. This may not work. This is just for testing. I'm going to try it. If it works or it doesn't work, I'm going to get rid of it right away, just so you know, and that should not be there. All right. So what doesn't it like here? Console.log. Is this It's comma expected. Well, I think it's because I'm trying to put that in as a parameter and it doesn't understand what I'm trying to do. All right, so I'm just going to leave that off. All right, that should work. All right. And again, I'm going to save this, and all I want to see right now is, did I break anything? So I'm going to look here. Notice it did break for a minute. All right, that's from that console.log. It said it didn't understand the period, but now it's up and running again. All right. So then I'm also going to go back to here, and all I'm going to do is just refresh this. And again, it may do something, it may not do anything. That's okay. All right? Okay. Now, again, we want to be able to display all of the posts, including our posts. So we want to be able to put in a post and have it display along with the other ones. When we first do this, it's going to be in ascending order. We probably want to eventually change that because typically if you look at a blog, they've got the newest ones first and not the oldest ones. All right, we could change that. I'm just going to leave it the way that I've got it right now.
I'm getting an error in my npm run dev on the bottom where we set the view window. It doesn't like EJS.
Well, did you install EJS? Did you do an npm I on EJS? Because you need that, and you need this line too.
Yeah, I got the require on how much.
Well, but you also need to make sure that you can install it again. It'll just install it on top of itself. But
Let's install it and double check. Okay, I like that.
okay, all right. So let's go into our index.ejs file. Remember, that's our home page, right? Index.ejs. There it is. And right now, like I said, it's got a bunch of stuff. Look at this. Clean blog. A blog by Start Bootstrap, etc. And it's got all these different post previews that are in here. See that? There's a post preview, there's one, there's one, there's one. There's like about 5 of those. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll keep one of them. It doesn't matter which one, but I'll keep the first one. Okay? So I'm going to keep the first one that's in there, but I'm going to change it, and I'm going to get rid of all of these other ones. We're going to make a bunch of changes to the first one too, just so you know. All right? So let's see. So I want to get rid of everything from there. Keep going on down. I think, and if I screw it up, I'll have to just bring it back or whatever. That's not really that big a thing. But what should have changed now is, again, did I break anything? No, that's good. But if I bring this back up now and I refresh, I go to my home page and I refresh, now I've only got one post. All right, and evidently I left some code in there. See that? You probably didn't, but I left some code in there. All right, so I got to get rid of that. In fact, I'm going to grab that and copy it so I can try to take a look for it. There it is, right there. All right, let's double check and make sure. There we go. Okay, so that's the only one we've got. We don't want this. What we want to eventually be able to do is we want there to be no posts except our posts. That's what we want. So that's what we're going to put in right now. All right? Okay. So we're going to come in here and let's see, what do I have here? All right. Right up above where it says the post preview, etc. We're going to come in and we're going to start writing some code. All right? I'm going to probably have to move stuff around, etc. It's no big thing, one way or the other. But what I want the system to be able to do is to use a loop to go through the database and find all the posts and then populate our index page with those posts as it finds them, to throw them out there. There's different ways you can do this, and you know the different loop types. I just used the old-fashioned for loop. So, and again, we'll go over what all this means in just a second. So if it doesn't make sense, it's okay. So what this is in here is we're starting to put in some JavaScript code. Does that make sense? And we have to surround that JavaScript code inside of our tags. All right? So right before I finish, there's the start div. Right before I finish the end div, I'm going to also put in this. I've got to end my curly. Does that make sense to everybody? So I put that, so I wanted to make sure this is the one div right there. That's the div. That's the end. At least I think it is, because at least they line up. And that's the beginning of my JavaScript, and that's the end of my JavaScript. Does all that make sense? All right. Then I'm going to come in, and you don't have to do this, but it's going to make it easier to read. I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to tab it over one. Now I've got everything. So my for loop, has got everything, etc. I mean, I think it just looks better. All right. So, well, what do we want in here? Well, remember, we don't have the person's name yet. All right. We will have their ID, but we won't have their name. All right. We'll have their name later on this week. So right here where it says this, post.html, we're going to replace that to begin with. So we're going to come in here and say, whoops, try it again. Come on. There. Slash post slash blog posts LCV dot underscore ID. I don't like the fact that all of that is blue, but I did it on just paper, so let's see. Well, the other thing is I got to close this. So that'll be right there. All right. Let me double check and make sure I didn't screw up. Yep. We have to slash post slash. It should be correct. Blog posts LCV dot underscore ID. That should be correct. All right. Now we may get an error. I'm not going to worry about it. All right. We're almost done with what I wanted to get done with today, so we're doing fine. All right. The other thing is, well, we don't want that title, and we don't want that subtitle. Where it's got title, we want our title, and where it's got subtitle, we want our body. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So in here where it's got title, I'm just going to literally, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to hit enter there, and I'm going to hit enter here. So I can work on those, and I can have my JavaScript on a line all by itself. So I don't need that anymore. Copy this. Oops, try that again. Now, one thing is, look on the screen if you would. I did start in H2, so I better end my H2. And here I started in H3, so I better end my H3. All right? But notice what we've done. We've gone in and we've done a lot of replacing. So the title should be replaced with the current title. The body should be replaced with the current body. Still don't like the way that looks, and I don't know why, but I just... All right. I was wondering if I put single quotes in there, if that would make that go away. Don't like that anymore, forget it. All right, I'll have to look at that. Okay. Now, eventually, it says it's written by Start Bootstrap. We want to replace that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a users table. All right, and it'll have a username in it, and it'll have a date posted in it. So that'll be the username, and that'll be the date posted. Does that make sense? All right. All right. Okay, let's do a file save on this. Or save all if you've got that available, that's fine. And I'm going to go back to server.js. And I'm going to look at my routes. All right. Now let's see. I'm looking. We've got this route. That shows us all of our posts, right? Do we have a post that shows us just a single post? See, I don't see one. Do you agree?
Right.
All right. So I'm going to copy this. And then right below the one I've got, I'm going to paste this in. And we're going to have post here instead of posts. And remember this? Remember that? Colon ID? All right. And we will make this asynchronous. So we're putting an async in there. All right. And now, no, we don't want to do this. What we want to do when this happens is we want to get a post. Does that make sense to everyone? We want to get whatever we've defined as being that current post. That's the one with that ID. All right. So, const log post equals, here's where our await comes in. So what we're saying in here is when we put in a single post like this, we want you to go out and find the associated ID and render just that post. Does that all make sense? All right. Now, we went in and we made a bunch of changes, all right, into a couple of these files. All right. We made our change in here to index, which allowed us to loop through, okay? But we also want to go into our post.ejs because that's what's allowing us to see an individual post. All right? I mean, that's what's in here now. It's just this. It's all junk text, for lack of better words. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. So the first thing, let's see, what do we want to do? Well, let's see. Well, does this look familiar? Posted by Doesn't it look pretty much like what we just had? Does to me at least, I don't know. So I'm going to come in here and where we've got all this, all right, well, there's the title really, right there. There's the title. That H1 is the title, all right? So I'm going to, again, just put this on a separate line. You don't have to do that, but you can do that. And I'm going to say in here, blog post dot title. All right. And then this is my body. So I'm going to make this, just going to copy this line down because it's the same thing, except I went, whoops, what I did there. Okay. This one has to be body. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go down to where it says article. Does everybody have this? All right, I'm going to go down to where it says article, and where we got all this junk. All right. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to keep this. Let's see. I'm looking at the formatting. Auto, etc., etc. And I think we can get rid of every bit of junk that's in here. We don't need the placeholder text. We don't need a paragraph. We can get rid of all that. See how nice and clean we made that? And we'll replace it with this line. Because what is that? That's the body of the post. Oops. There. So we have done quite a bit of cleanup in here. I mean, that file is now down to less than 50 lines. That's pretty good. All right, so I'm going to do a file save all. One more thing, and then we're finished for today. Go back, let's see. So I don't know if I've changed this yet or not, so I'm going to check. You know what? Let's just do this right now. Okay? We don't need a new table for this. Let's go into our, this is the last thing we're going to do today. It literally should take 5 or 10 more minutes. Let's go into our models, and as soon as I find it, there you are. Open up under our models. Let's open up our blog post model. You know what this is. Let's just add 2 fields. Let's add a username, and we'll make that of type string. Now, this is for Mr. Breeding's benefit. That is, now we will add some stuff in here because we're going to have a thing called, we'll call it date posted, and we're going to make it, we're going to put in the curly. Why? Because it's of type date. All right, and if that's all we needed, we wouldn't have had to put those in, but we want to put in default new date. So we've added these 2 fields right here. Make sure you put a comma after the body. So this is what's new. Everything that's in blue there is now new. All right. So what we're doing is we're going into our schema for our individual blog post, and we're adding a username, and we're adding a date that post was posted. All right. So after doing that, I'm going to do a file save all, or a file save, whatever. And now I can come in first, I can come into this index file, and we can change these. All right. So in other words, this one in our index file, all right, we can come in and now I can just grab this. And where it says posted by, again, you don't have to do this, but I like putting it on another line, so I've got everything kind of sticking out there. So now this will be username, and this will be on date posted. Now, just so you know, it's going to give us that date back as a JSON object, and it won't post right. So we have to put in here dot to date string paren. Notice I left the word on. So ideally, whoops, I don't want no there. Ideally, once we register, mine will now have that, and it'll say posted by Jeff S. or whatever on, and it'll have today's date. Does that make sense? All right. Now we changed that. So again, I added this. This is what's new from what was in there before. All right. And I've got to go back also and make similar changes to post.ejs. Remember, that's for a single post. So I'm going to, again, save. I'm going to go back to post.ejs. And now where I've got this, I can make the same kinds of changes. All right, so where it says posted by, there is a difference here, and I just want to show it to you. We're not in a, this is a single post, so we're not in an array here. So don't put the LCV. Just put blogpost.body, and for the on, and not body, that's username. And again, this one will be date posted. So I changed this that you see here in blue.
To date string.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Thank you. I don't know how much of this is making sense, but that's one of the reasons I'm trying to not do too much in any one day. All right. Tomorrow, what we're doing is we pull this stuff out of server.js and we put it into a bunch of different controller files. We're probably going to be going over less tomorrow than we are today. All right. And if we get all that stuff done, then what we will do, there's a couple other things I want to do tomorrow. Then we will bring the user in on Thursday, all right, and do some work with that. And then between Friday and Monday, I mean, this is fine. But if somebody screws up now, all we're doing is we're just pushing them back to the page they started. We're not giving them a message. So we're not doing a good job of letting them know they made a mistake. We're going to do that with alert messages. But remember, we don't have an alert here because the alert statement is something that's in client-side JavaScript, and we're working in server-side JavaScript. All right? So it is still working. That's the good news. I have no idea if this is going to work or not. All right? I've actually gotten farther with you guys. But I've done it, and then I'm redoing it, and in my redo. Okay, so let's see. All right, so it doesn't like something. I have to go back and fix it. I'm not worried about it. It says to-date string of undefined. Well, that ain't good.
That's because instead of doing date posted in your model, you did date posts.
Oh, is that what I called it in the model? I was going to say it. There's got to be something. It really should have been called date posted in the model. That would have been a better name because that it's the date that it was posted. So this really should be date posted. Thank you. See that? That's what you should. You want to call one, call it whatever you want. That's not a big thing. You know, you want to call it post date, you can call it that. It doesn't really matter. But like you just said, you've got to be consistent or the code isn't going to work. So. Well, that's good. At least it's not, you know, all right. that's a problem. We'll have to fix that, but let's see. Well, and like I said, I want to check because this button is not looking lit up or anything. I just, something's wrong. I'll have to go check my master code that I've got, so. Yeah, because this isn't doing diddly. All right, and hopefully I can get that fixed for you for tomorrow. All right.
Oh, I think it's because it's disabled.
Is it disabled? Okay, that's fine. And I'm sure I'll find that out if I look at it, but there's a couple of other things that need to be changed. But let's all do this. Do a file save. Close everything that you've got open. You know, if it asks if you need to save anything, please do save it. And what time is it? It's time to go push this back up to GitHub, right? All right. So again, I'm going to take this and just use the window I've been using. I'm going to clear this. You know the drill by now. Git add dot. All right. Git commit -m. Give it whatever message you want. I mean, what did we do today? You know, we added posts table. All right. And ability to create and view posts, something like that. And it may not totally be working, but something along those lines. All right. So we got that. Now we should be able to do our push. Okay, says that it worked, but we'll find out quick. You should be doing the same. Then just go out to your GitHub account. And there's blog. And there you go, 39 seconds ago. You can even see what's changed and what hasn't changed since yesterday. And you notice that the stuff that hasn't changed, you know, is our static stuff, package.json, and our assets folder. That's what they gave us, was that assets folder. All right. So tomorrow we're going to, just so you know, this is what I plan on doing. I have no idea if we'll get all this done or not. I'm not in any hurry. But the first thing that we're going to do is we'll set it up so you can also add an image. Okay, that's not a lot of work, but we'll set it up so you can add an image along with your blog. Why would you want to do that? Well, if I went on a trip someplace, I might want to have a picture of the trip that I went on, or me on that trip, or whatever. All right, so that's the first thing we'll do. Then we'll come back and we'll start talking about a little bit more about middleware, and we'll come in and create a little bit of our own middleware. You don't have to do this now, but one of the things that I will do tomorrow is, and again, you don't have to do it right now, but I'm going to add another folder in here. All right, and what? Call it what? Well, I'm going to add another folder up here. We've got a controllers folder, we've got a models folder, we got a views folder. We don't have our own middleware folder. So I'm going to add a folder that's called middleware. All right, and it'll be right under here. You can do it now if you want to, but you don't have to. So I'm just going to come in and do a new folder and call it middleware. Now, whether you realize it or not, you've been using middleware the entire semester since we've been starting on Node, because anytime you do an app.use, that's middleware. But we're going to be adding our own middleware into this, because as much as possible, we want to try to idiot-proof this thing. So if somebody does something they shouldn't do, we just don't want them to be allowed to do it. All right? So we're going to do that. We'll talk about images, then we'll talk about some middleware, and then we will go in and start, actually, because there's nothing in controllers right now. I'll show you how we'll start taking some of this stuff out and putting it into its own file, and what you have to do in order to be able to do that. All right? And again, if we get that done tomorrow, whatever we don't get done tomorrow, we push off to Thursday, and we're also on Thursday going to start working on setting up users. All right? Questions? Okay. That's what I had for today then.